Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Walter. And Walter, kudos to you and the team for today's session. Strong quality content, so thanks for your efforts. Great to see a number of our members on screen, but a big welcome and hello to all of our membership that might be dialing in or calling in today. On behalf of CCOA, certainly hope everyone is healthy, well. That goes for yourself, your families, everybody at your credit union. So again, wish that on behalf of CCOA. So today, was a big event for us for CCOA to have a three-part webinar. I know it's kind of a long event, but I think excellent content talking about the reopening of our economies, what that means for employees and also assisting members throughout the process. A lot of HR content, a lot of content when it comes to communications, IT, compliance. But we thought this final phase would be a chance to interact and hear what's taking place at some of your peer institutions. And I'm pleased to say we have a great lineup of CEOs and senior leaders from across the CCOA footprint. And we also have a couple of special guests. We thought it was important to reach out to a few states and have a few folks join us today. So we have a CEO from Maine and also two senior representatives of a large credit union in Florida. Economies that have been a little bit earlier in terms of opening up that can share some best practices. So in some respects, I consider this a national webinar of some kind. What we're going to do is I'll ask each panelist to say maybe 3 or 5 minutes overview, maybe share, name your credit union, assets, number of employees, number of branches, give a little perspective, and then talk about what you're doing to reopen. I think there'll be some overlap as we go through this next hour or so, but we want to leave plenty of time for questions. I have a number of questions on my end, which I'll jump in here and there. So that's the game plan. And again, a big thank you to our membership for joining in today. So I'm going to start with Workers Credit Union. We have the CEO, Doug Peterson. We also have Peter Rice, the SVP of Retail Services. I'd like Doug and Peter to share what's taking place at Workers, and then we'll go from there. So I'll start with Doug first as CEO. Doug?
Doug, you may want to check the microphone on your level there. We may be double muted. Nope, still not getting you, Doug. Uh-oh.
Well, Peter.
This is Peter. Can you guys hear me?
We got you, Peter.
Yeah, Doug, I sabotaged you yet again. What can I say, folks? We've been doing strange things to entertain ourselves during this crisis. Doug and I can speak for Doug on this one. We're just so excited to talk to other people other than Doug and I just talking to each other. So thank you. This is already a big success as far as I'm concerned. Workers Credit Union, about 1.9 billion, 16, 17 branches, just over 300 employees. I know today there's going to be a lot of focus perhaps on tactical things that we will do to reopen, those kind of initiatives. But I think it's very important to look at the very high level things here first and foremost. Mission. What is our mission? It's never been more central to our movement and to remember that. And that's our North Star, which guides all these decisions. Because if you think of these decisions, some of them may be extreme as life and death or serious illness for employees and members. So there's a new cautiousness to everything we have to think about. And so I think it's very important to rely on that foundation, that bedrock of why we exist and our missions. The second thing is agility and really thinking outside the box. Never in my career did I think we'd be closing branch lobbies. And certainly never in my career did I imagine we'd be asking members and employees to wear masks when they came into a location. We've spent 25, 30 years asking people to remove facial coverings. So very different thought process going into this and coming out of it. The other thing I'd say to folks is, there's a lot of emphasis on culture. And this is a real test of your culture as an organization. But I think it's very important to remember that a great culture is elastic. that it's not a staid thing, that it changes and evolves. And within this epidemic and pandemic, we've seen opportunities to expand positively our culture, embrace our members and our employees in ways that we never had before. Specifically, what I mean by that is some of the soft skills that we need in leadership, particularly based around empathy, understanding that our employees and members have many competing priorities in this. Staying safe, providing for their families, same for members to keep their financial wellness top of mind. So there's a number of things that have to be balanced at once, and if one is out of sync with the other, again, could be serious consequences. A lot of focus today on communication. I think regular and honest and open communication from leadership is critical with any plan that you may have designed. And it's very important to tell your people, even if you have nothing to say to them regularly. So for example, every morning at 8:30, we talk to the entire member-facing unit here, which is about 185 people. And every morning we talk for 10, 15 minutes about what's going on, including any potential COVID outbreaks, the decisions we took around it, the protocols that we followed. So very, very open and honest, and also the challenges that we're working on. And it also gives us an opportunity to socialize some of the plans that we might discuss today. The other thing I'd also put under that banner of soft skills is the really important thing to talk about mental health. People are dealing with all kinds of issues, from isolation to pressure to stress. And regardless of your ideological background, your gender, your wealth, it is very important to embrace our employees and to show vulnerability, if you would, but to show it as a strength and not a weakness, to talk about their fears, to get it out in the open, to give us a chance to address it and come up with better planning. So I'd also put that under the banner of agility and mental health, that you're going to hear things that surprise you. You're going to see extremes, people who refuse to wear masks, people who won't move without wearing a mask. And this is where your culture and your mission becomes that central point for all your decisions. It's the point from which we can all agree and move forward with. So they'd be just some round of my opening comments on that. I don't know if Doug is off mute yet.
Well, can you hear me now?
Absolutely, Doug. Yes.
So Peter covered everything I was going to say, so I couldn't have done a better job. So thank you, Peter. Actually, I did want to add a couple of quick things, and that is that, for us at Workers, right now, about 80% of our employees are working from home, and we've already communicated to all those employees that are in the support functions that for now we're going to continue to allow them to stay at home, and as things progress, we'll continue to watch how things go, and then at some point at the credit union we'll be able to say, okay, let's bring some people back in, and we'll do that in a fashion that's safe for them. So other than that, I'm sure Peter covered everything well, and I'd like to go on to the next speaker. So.
Ron, all right, Ron, we got to unmute you.
My bad, Walter. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So we'll give Doug and Peter a chance to jump in later on in terms of the member experience at Workers. What if you walk into going to walk into a branch in the future, or maybe it's by appointment only and things of that nature. So we'll get back to that in a little while. I'd like to welcome Michelle Dwyer from Franklin First. So Michelle, welcome. And again, if you can just give a little context about where you're located, asset size, branches, employees, and thanks for joining us today, Michelle.
Sure, thank you, Ron. So Franklin First is a $64 million asset credit union. We are located in Greenfield, Massachusetts. We serve just the county of Franklin County, which is in the northern part of Western Mass. We have about 17 employees currently. Some of the challenges that we kind of have faced is just being a one branch credit union. In that case, that we have been able to be less accessible than maybe some of the other bigger credit unions that have been able to have multiple drive-ups or have lobby access at different hours. So for us, our goal, although we don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable opening up soon, we have made the decision to do so because some of the restrictions that we have around in this area, and some workers, credit unions, members probably experience the same thing, is that there are some counties in this area that have really low Wi-Fi and internet access, which makes it very difficult for them to follow through on the electronic options that we have with online banking and mobile. It's spotty, so they have to come down into town to get internet access to do their banking. So it really puts the kind of an extra burden on our members in order for our lobbies to be closed. So one of the things that we decided to do was to open up our lobby for shortened hours. So our drive up will remain open for the normal hours, and then our lobby will be open for 5 hours during each day, with limited access depending on what Governor Baker's mandates are that come out on Monday, as far as how many people can be in a building. We have all the same things that everybody's already been talking about with the plexis and the stickers and the signage and the hand sanitizers, and all of that will be set. The mask situation was a very large concern for us. One, again, because we're in a rural area and by a highway. So, we're kind of a prime target already. But with the economic kind of downturn, it gives people probably a little bit more incentive to maybe think along those terms. So we are going to have a greeter at the door, so that it's a little bit more of a deterrent. Obviously, again, with Baker's mandate, it makes it easier for us to say you have to wear a mask while you come in, which was very nice for us to be able to have kind of a backing around that. When they do come in, we don't necessarily have an operation set up where we can identify people prior to them coming in the door. So we actually have to wait for members to get to the teller line. And then at that point, when the teller is doing the transactions, they will ask them to pull down their masks. We put a little sticker at the top of each plexi that kind of points their eyes in the direction of the camera so they get a full view of the face, and then they can put their mask back up. The other things that we kind of have established is making sure that we all are on the same schedule as far as cleaning. So we're all sharing those responsibilities. We're all wearing masks, regardless if we have offices that we're sitting in that we can close doors, just for fairness of, the lower level lobby that we'll have to do that while we're open. And kind of in a solidarity thing, as well as with the cleaning schedule. So I will be down there cleaning plexis, every day, and so will everybody else. So I think that was a really important thing for us to do. And then appointments, we're going to continue doing loans and member service appointments only. And we did remove all of our lobby furniture and our kid play spaces, just so that nobody had an opportunity to kind of hang out, sit down, and congregate in the lobby. So we're really trying to make sure that we keep everybody at a distance and making those options not available to them.
Okay.
That's it.
Michelle, thank you. So a couple quick questions. The mask has been a topic of concern amongst many credit unions about the increased potential for robberies. Mm-hmm. So asking a member to kind of dip down the mask, any kind of pushback from the members in any way? What's been the overall experience as asking members to do that?
At this point, I think that there's just so much of a relief of actually being able to access our lobby. Again, because our building is so small and our drive up, we only have one lane. It's been really hard for members to be able to come in and not have to wait 15 minutes, to access the drive up. So just being able to come in and do that. And there's still the option, if they don't feel comfortable, they certainly can go through drive up, or we can, go out and assist them and come back in ourselves, making sure that we're doing all the proper things.
Good. Yeah. So the second question is, you're, I believe, a one-branch credit union,
yes,
which a number of our members are. So as far as staffing-wise, do you have kind of like, I don't know, an A and B, or kind of a split team where it's kind of segmented? So if, heaven forbid, somebody gets sick.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So one of the things that we did at the start of this is make sure, well, I should say for the last 3 years, our focus has been huge on cross-training. So there's a lot of us in here that know how to do a lot of different things, which comes with most small credit unions. So when we were closing the lobby and we were allowing people to kind of stay home and quarantine, and that came in very handy, and we set up certain schedules so that certain people were here at certain times, and so that was all split out. That will continue. The big fear is that if someone does test positive here or gets sick here, one person can take out the entire organization, because we only have 17 people. We don't have people that are isolated in different places. So we have to be very careful with how we're bringing people in and making sure that, any signs of symptoms at all, that person needs to be out of our area.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at the chat section, and I'll ask some of those questions to the broad group in a few minutes. Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle. Appreciate
Yes.
that.
Thank
So
you.
I'd like to head over, or I guess down to Priority Plus down in Delaware. Pleased to welcome Annette Garofalo, who is the VP of Operations, again, at Priority Plus FCU down in Delaware. So Annette, can you please share what you're doing at Priority Plus and any kind of best practices and tips? And thanks for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you, Ron. We are in a similar situation as Michelle. We are a small credit union, a one-office credit union. We have no drive-through, and we only have 5 employees. We have 2,000 members. We are fortunate in that our main seg is post office employees who are working very hard, and so but in that, they are expecting full service financial operation because they're all at work and everything's norm for them. We do have the split staff as well. We have a vestibule, we have the main doors, and then we have a magnetic set of doors. And currently we have the members stopping there. We have a desk in there, and we have an all-in-one slip that they can put all their intention or any intention of their transaction on that and sign it. It kind of minimizes the back and forth. They come through the second set of doors, they put the slip in a box. And this might be helpful for people that have no drive-through, because that was a challenge for us. And then we handled the transaction from there. As Michelle said, we're doing all the things that were suggested in the prior sessions: masks, gloves. We're wiping down everything. We're encouraging our members to use all remote services. We have designated spaces, and we're all staying in our spaces. It's easy to do with the split staff, the staying in your spaces. Our challenge is going to be when the restrictions are lifted, all coming back. We only have 5 employees. So with 5 employees, if someone is exposed or if someone gets sick, it's, it can take us all out. So that's a big decision for us, making the switch to having all the people at work. While we're there, it's easy to separate 5 people. So that's pretty much it. We're only allowing our plan for the future is to allow 1 member in at a time, take loans by appointment, and we are going to take temperatures of employees and have health screenings if anybody does show symptoms. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Nate. So a question I'll open up to I'll ask you first, but so a question I would have is, who do you ask to take the temperature of employees? In your case, Annette, I think you mentioned you have 5 employees, but maybe after we finish the rest of the panelists, I'd be curious to hear from them about who they're asking to take temperatures if they're doing it. But in your case, who is doing that?
I think we don't even have the thermometer yet. It hasn't come in, but of course. But if once that happens, we're going to have to do our best. We're going to have someone who's prepared with with gloves, a mask, whatever, and take care of it.
Okay.
We're just trying to, we're playing this by ear and trying to comply and do our best to keep everybody safe and keep the credit union open. It's the biggest challenge is, with a small staff, we don't have departments and we don't have separation of people. So keeping the credit union open is the biggest challenge. So, if we can cut it off and get those temperatures taken and getting the sick person out of range quickly, we figure we have our best shot at doing just that.
Good. Well, thanks, Annette. And certainly appreciate the challenges for all credit unions, but especially some of the lower asset size ones that only have a handful of staff in some cases. So kudos to yourself, Michelle, and the rest of your peers that are under that size category. So I'd like to head a little bit north. So we have a neighbor in Maine. We have pleased to welcome Jason Lindstrom, I believe from Portland. Jason, you are with Evergreen Credit Union. So I believe Maine was a little bit ahead of some of our states as far as the economy's opening up, but certainly welcome feedback. Your neighbor and a peer, and welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I appreciate it. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we're a $350 million credit union, and I say that because at the end of the 2019, we were $315 million. So I don't know if all of you guys have seen the assets and the liquidity increases that we have up here. But we're slated to open our branches again starting on the 1st of June. It kind of goes with the economic plan that's up here in Maine. We are in Cumberland and York County, which both counties have had community transmission, and the governor has kept those counties shut down, which is ironic because you can go kind of across a river and be in a county that you can go to a restaurant per se. So it's interesting and it's challenging for sure. We're going to go to appointment only. We've been closed since March 17th, just doing drive-through transactions only. And I've got about 95 employees, and about 25% of our workforce is at home, mostly back office, all back office workers. But yeah, we'll be opening. We're going to social distance. We're not taking temperatures, but we are checking people at the door as far as the mask goes. We figure that when a member comes in, if they're wearing a mask, that we'll ask them to pull it down, get them on video, but they also have an appointment. So we kind of determined that a potential bank robber is not going to call in, give us a member number, book an appointment for a specific time, and then show up. So we're going to do that, and I think we're going to limit it to our largest branch, 5 people in the lobby maximum at a time, and then we have a smaller branch that has just one drive-through window. We're going to limit that to about 2 people in the lobby at a time. And so we're looking forward to seeing what happens. We're still working on the plan to diagram it all out. We are providing the plexiglass both at our FSR and teller stations, but we plan on running the entire month of June by appointment only, and then on July 1st move to allowing teller transactions back in the lobby. And we may do it sooner depending on the traffic flow. All of our offices, we have 4 branches, they all have drive-throughs, and it's been pretty busy. We've got a number of credit unions that have shut down on Saturdays and reduced hours, and we're a shared branch location. So we're now seeing our drive-throughs start backing up a little bit on Saturdays with shared branching transactions. But we're here to help, and we're here to help our members. We've had no COVID cases. The state of Maine, I think, is up to 1,500 cases with 66 deaths as of today. So it's not as hard hit. Or more rural population, but we do have concerns with our team, the psychological aspect that was mentioned earlier. So I think we've done a really good job communicating and leading from the top and being here for our employees. And we've been on a 2-week on, 2-week off shift for our frontline staff. While they're at home, they're getting paid because that's just what we do as a credit union, is take care of our team. So that's worked out really well. We just made a decision to give all the other workers, all the other employees, extension of 5 PTO days that they can take prior to November 1st, so that we avoid a rush on the holiday time frame. But they can take up to 1 day extra PTO 5 times between now and November 1st. So we just announced that today, and it seems to have gone over really well. And that's for all the staff that hasn't been on the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, but the back office and the work from home employees as well. So the morale is good up here. We're looking forward to getting things going, getting some more loan business in to take care of that loan to share ratio.
Jason, you mentioned I think it was 4 or 5 branches. So is the game plan to open up more fully 1 branch at a time, or is it going to be across the board? I hear different things about, some credit unions will have, 1 or 2 branches, kind of a slow phase in of the branches reopening. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, with having 4 branches, we're going to go full open,
Okay.
With appointment only. So right now our marketing team's creating all of the collateral material. We've ordered the plexiglass. It's going to be here this week. We ordered 1,200 masks for our team. Because the team in the branch, we're going to have them masked up, and we don't have that many employees, of course, but we wanted to give our team, we're open 6 days a week, so give each person 6 masks, and they can wash them on the weekends, but then they're not wearing the same cloth mask every day. So we've got that going, hand sanitizer stations, all that's being set up. But yeah, we're going to open all 4 branches. Our staff doesn't know yet. We're still working on the plan, but they're not on the call, so we're good.
Okay, thanks, Jason. And I have questions that I think are better suited for everybody to answer, so I'm going to hold back a little bit on some of the questions for each of you. So excellent. So thrilled to welcome, I guess, to our Deep South, a couple folks from Florida. We have John Wintermeyer and also Jennifer Galley. Jennifer, or Jen, is the COO at Achieva Credit Union, and then John is the Chief Business Officer at Achieva. I believe over $1 billion, 1 point, maybe 5 or 6, but John or Jen can clarify that. We had a pre-call with John and Jen earlier this week, but certainly pleased to welcome our credit union peers to Florida. And I'll hand over maybe John first to that lead off, and appreciate you joining us today and sharing your thoughts.
Hopefully you can hear me, Ron. Thank you. I appreciate it. Excellent. I'm actually going to Jen.
Whoops.
And she can talk on the branches as well. If that's okay.
Sure, of course.
If Jen's unmuted.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Jen.
Excellent. So at Achieva, we are about 1.7 billion. We have 22 branches on Florida's west coast. Of those, we have 4 storefronts. So we currently have 18 branches with drive-throughs that are open. In total, we have about 430 employees, and about 210 of them work in our corporate office in Dunedin. So as time has gone by, we started clearly with full services. We scaled back to appointment only in the lobbies, and since taken the last step of reducing down to only drive-throughs, which is why only 18 of our 22 branches are open. With that in mind, we are looking to go to what we're calling phase 1 reopening, which will put us back into that appointment-based lobby visiting. So there's lots of unwinding to do in terms of staffing. We have seen a lot of our members divert to other channels. So our call center stats are much, much higher. We've reallocated a bunch of our employees to some of the PPP loan initiative processing, things of that nature. So as we look to build out our plan, a really critical piece is making sure that we can recall those employees without further causing concern in those business units, as well as all of the staff members with all of their own concerns, whether it's health-based concerns, if they have first responders in their home or healthcare workers, and then those families who are dealing with virtual schooling at home. So it's quite a bit of activity. So I believe John is going to speak about the facilities and safety concerns around reopening our corporate location.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, so I mean, as everybody mentioned before, our employees are number one, right? So we've got to take this very cautiously. We have roughly 210 employees in our corporate office. We're looking at following what our state and local officials have started. So Florida reopened just about a little over a week ago. And the theme was 25% capacity, generally speaking. So that's what we're following. We've decided to go with 25% capacity. And what we've done is we've taken the entire corporate office and basically created a checkerboard. So we've decided to rope off every other station, so to slow down and keep the spacing the where we need it to be. Our plan is to open June 9th with that 25%. Beyond that, everybody's going to be required to come through the front door. We have a security guard that will be taking care of the temperature checks for us. They will be required to wear masks. The mask will be required in all common areas. If you're in your office or on the phone in your cubicle in the call center, then the mask won't be required. But every other place, restrooms, break rooms, et cetera, it will be required. We also have a number of conference rooms, so all of those will be roped off. We'll be encouraging and continuing with video conferencing. We have 2 larger rooms that we'll use, but we'll keep it to the limit of 10 or less in those rooms, obviously with masks, et cetera, still required. And then, like everybody else had spoken about, we have plenty of hand sanitizer around the building, social distancing signs. We're going to make sure that our vendors that are required to come to the office for an HVAC issue, et cetera, that they will be wearing masks and only be required vendors. We're also in the midst of creating a little training / certification program. So we've watched a number of webinars, CDC and OSHA content driven. And so we're working on a program like that I think will help with the psychological aspect of it, that your coworker, has gone through this program and has taken this very seriously and understands the requirements before they return to work. So generally speaking, that's what we're handling with the corporate office. Jen, do you have other stuff on the branches you want to cover?
Yeah, just a few more details. Clearly, we're planning a lot of the same activities as were already mentioned, but some of the other kind of considerations or thoughts that we have is that we are going to reopen on 5/26 some hub locations to kind of pilot and get our own lessons learned before going all in. So we have one in each market, so that'll be 4 open on 5/26. We have 4 more open the following week, and then we will probably open all of our remaining branches the week after. We are also making masks optional in the branches, and that's for our employees and for our members. However, we have just decided that we want to survey our membership and find out how they feel about this pandemic. I think we make a lot of assumptions about how our members think, feel, and would respond to things. So rather than doing that, we're going to actually ask them how directly they've been impacted, whether it's financially or emotionally, things of that nature, what type of support they feel like they need financially, whether it's education or special products or relief loans. But we're also going to ask them how they would feel about being required to wear a mask, and also ask them if they would feel differently if we made them provide their own mask or if we'd have to provide them. I'm not sure that will change the outcome, but it would be interesting to get that feedback. We are also using a tool that we use for all different types of things, especially pandemics and hurricanes here in Florida. So we use a tool called Alert Media, and that's a great communication tool for internal team members. It connects directly with our HR system, and so the feed is always accurate with their phone numbers and email addresses. And so we can send a text, an email blast, and a voicemail all at the same time. So regardless of if our team members are actually dialed into our network, or if they're working from home, or if they're furloughed with pay, no matter what, we know that they're getting good communication. So we'll continue to use that. Question I've been asked on multiple occasions has been around pandemic pay. And it seems like there's a lot of different schools of thoughts. I can just share ours with you. It's that right now we're not considering a traditional pandemic pay. Again, we have a lot of hurricanes and different types of events come up that it may set a precedent, but we will try to navigate our way through this and then take a look back and determine what an appropriate rewards and recognition strategy is. I've heard of some people paying a pandemic bonus out, and then as time goes on, they realize this is a little longer than they initially thought, and then they look to do that 2 and 3 times, and then they don't realize kind of what still lies ahead. So it can be a slippery slope. And then the last kind of consideration is the cross-contamination, or the potential for that to happen. We have had on several occasions where either a team member or a member have been in and have had to do active testing, which meant that we would have a team of 6 to 10 people quarantining. That can be pretty devastating when you have that big of a number of people pulled out of staffing. So we're trying our best to reduce any float team members are being asked to pick a branch and report there until further notice to kind of reduce some of that potential. So those are the key things we're looking at right now.
Well, thanks, Jen. Appreciate that. So you mentioned, I think it was pandemic pay, but so at this point, I'd like to kind of ask some questions that I will give all the panelists an opportunity to jump in. So my first question kind of goes off of Jen's last comment about pandemic pay. I know in our footprint up here in the Northeast, a number of our credit unions had, I'll call it frontline, extra pay for frontline employees, member service, reps, tellers, branch managers. And I've got some questions recently, are people continuing to pay those? Again, the people at risk, but I would open it up to the folks, our panelists, to how you're handling, I'll call it hazard pay for your frontline employees.
So we didn't do extra pay, but we made sure that everybody got their regular hours from the moment the lobby closed until we open again, regardless if they were here or not for any reason, whether it be childcare or quarantining or just simple symptoms that we didn't want them in the area. So that's what we did. And if this had continued and we weren't able to open the lobby, our board has been very, very, very generous about making sure that would continue.
Okay.
So Ron, workers, we decided we call it differential. We didn't want to call it hazard or pandemic on the off chance it would attach too much negativity to it. We tied it to the governor's declarations of when the governor was going to reopen and maybe relax some of the legislation, some of the rules around it. So that gives us some wiggle room. But there are other things you can do if you do pay it. You can slowly wean people off, as states reopen, we'll reduce that. And as numbers go down, we'll reduce it. So that's kind of been our plan. And that's how we've put an end on it.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Appreciate that. Good. So again, I'm going to bounce around my questions kind of over the place, but one of the panelists, I think it was Annette, I asked a question about who's taking the temperature. So for those of you that are choosing to take a temperature of an employee, I'm just curious to know any considerations, who's doing it, and anything else you want to share. So that's a question I think our members would be interested in hearing about.
This is John from Achieva. So we, at the corporate office, I think I had alluded to that we have a security guard there, and the security guard will have gloves and a face mask, and they'll be required to check the temperature of each employee. We did get our temperature check devices in about 2 weeks ago after ordering them 4 weeks before that. So it does take some time to get them in, but we have, I guess, the benefit of having a security guard that will be taking those temperature checks.
Okay, good. Thank you. John, your answer kind of goes into another question that I want to ask, and this is going to be a challenge. It's really, I guess, from all of you, is how are you getting your PPE supplies? Any tips, best practices, whatever that others might learn from or share? I know we might not want to share those personal tips, but they're hard to find. Some of the supplies. I talked to some of our CEOs that are just at wit's end, but certainly welcome any feedback about how you are going about getting your supplies if you're able to.
I can give you a quick 2 seconds on that. So yeah, I had the benefit or luxury of visiting one of our local breweries to get our hands on hand sanitizer. So there's a creative way of, we have a number of the distilleries in the area that actually are making hand sanitizer. It's not inexpensive. That's the challenge, right? But we also have a great facilities crew that, our partner that actually has been trying to source it any which way possible. So I guess the theme is make sure you order enough of it well in advance, right? And it's kind of hard to say now as we're trying to rush to open in many cases, but we've been working for at least the past 4+ weeks to stockpile as much as we can. That's reasonable, right? I mean, we certainly, for example, we have some KN95 masks. We certainly would not be sourcing N95 masks. We got to take consideration of our healthcare workers and others that are on the front line. So we're doing what we can to take to order as much as possible and only get what we need for the foreseeable plan time period, if that makes sense.
Okay, so John, thank you.
That is certainly something that we struggle with. We basically have somebody watching all the time, all day, in different shopping, sites and that kind of a thing, and trying to get resources from different vendors to try to get stuff in. We have stuff on order, but it's not coming in for 3 or 4 weeks. So it's just kind of, sadly to say, kind of ration what we have and come up with different alternatives to what will, kind of take place of that stuff.
Okay, Michelle.
So Ron, at Workers, we were lucky enough to get a group of arts and crafts enthusiasts together, and who made a couple of hundred masks for staff in anticipation of this period. So it gave people something to do and a kind of a positive win culturally. And everyone got a couple of masks, so it was a nice little win for us. Much like everyone else has said, sourcing PPE quality is very difficult as well. When you do get it, some of it's not so good. And to John's point, you can't get the upper ones because then you're taken away from first responders, which puts you in the moral jeopardy. But we've been lucky to have some dedicated arts and crafts folks.
Lucky. Nice job. So Annette, can I ask you, I mean, most of our members of the association are going to be under 100 million. And again, relatively low exercise credit union, but how are you going about getting PP supplies?
Well, we were fortunate in that we ordered hand sanitizer right before this all hit. So we had a lot of it going in, and we used it kind of sparingly prior to. So we had a decent supply for our small credit union, and I just heard we got it in today, another supply. The masks, we had some people generously donate masks, boxes of them, the lower level medical masks, and we had a relative of our CEO made masks for everyone, and we haven't really had too much issue with masks. The gloves that's another story. We're having a hard time with gloves. We've gotten a couple boxes in. There's been some trial and error with sizing, and now you can't get gloves anywhere. So we have some back ordered gloves. And cleaning supplies, we're small enough that we have one office that we can grab them at the store when anybody sees them. So we've been okay for the most part with supplies. We ordered shields; they haven't come in yet, but we're not letting anyone in our branch anyway. And we're not going to order official markers yet. We're going to just use tape and just to have visual cues for 6 feet for staff. No one's in our building yet anyway. So we're pretty good for now.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to get to some of the questions that were submitted. I'm checking the chat area right now, so I'm going to pause on my questions. Is anyone additionally concerned about having a restroom open to the public, or are you just keeping that as part of the extra cleaning? That came from one of our attendees today. Again, any concerns about having a restroom open to the public, or just keeping that as part of the extra cleaning?
Our plan up here in Maine at Evergreen is to just keep our public restrooms closed to the public. Like you said, we're going to have a limited lobby traffic as it is. We are removing furniture. We're putting signs on the door that say, only the account holder will be allowed in. So we would even discourage having children come in because we're just not going to have a place for them to sit and congregate. So that's what we're doing. And then we're going to evaluate at the end of June as we go into July, see how things are as far as the count of cases in Maine, the number of deaths, and that kind of thing to decide if we want to reopen those. They're being cleaned regularly because both our employees and the members share, but we're going to use our teller line stanchions to kind of block off that area.
Okay, thank you. Others care to comment, respond?
So yes and yes. So they will be open to the public during the hours that we will be open. And that was one of the concerns or thoughts as to why we were going to limit our lobby hours, was just to make sure we kept up with the cleaning. It will be part of our cleaning schedule when we close each day, just to make sure that it's getting its extra cleaning on top of the normal cleaning that we have with the cleaners that come in. But yeah, it is a concern for sure.
Okay, more questions? Anybody else want to comment on the last question before I move on? Okay, so another question from one of our attendees. What is your protocol regarding sending an employee home if temp is over normal? Do you let them take public transportation to go home if they don't drive? Curious to hear if there's a plan. So if somebody comes in, employee test over temp, what's the process?
We don't have public transportation, so that takes care of that. But yeah, we're not going to be taking temperatures, but for sure, I am very aware of anybody that has, cough, a sneeze, it comes in with, because we all are in close proximity to each other and we all know each other so well at this point, we have very much a long longevity of employment here, that we know when somebody's not feeling well. So if somebody walks in the door and I know they're not feeling well, they just get turned right back around and back out the door. But as far as, sending them home, everybody here has their own car because we don't really have a public transit system here.
Okay.
Michael Clarkson, the first speaker of this session today, there were some good guidelines from, it was either the CDC or OSHA that is, if your temperature goes above the 104, it has to come down without medication in 72 hours, no shortness of breath or other real symptoms, and then you can come back to work. That was really helpful information for us. We weren't sure what we should set as guidelines for when to send home, how long do they send home, do they quarantine, but those guidelines, those were good workable guidelines.
Thank you.
And Peter, we just any symptoms or any exposure, we had a protocol around that. We didn't take anybody's temperature, but if they had any symptoms, we asked them to self-quarantine for 2 weeks or work from home for 2 weeks. And if they were sick, obviously then to take 2 weeks. And that's worked really well. For some of the larger credit unions, as we heard Jennifer discuss, an outbreak can be devastating. You can get 10, 20 people sick very quickly, or if they are diagnosed COVID, you have to close down entire buildings. So that became quite a concern because we do have a few large operational centers. And so we took a very cautious approach, and it's worked very, very well for us.
Good. Thank you, Peter. Another question we have is, are credit unions providing face masks for members when appointment only or lobbies reopen?
No.
Okay, no, Michelle?
No.
Nope.
No.
So the reason for me, the pessimist in me, says if you give somebody a mask and 1 day later or 2 weeks later they get sick, guess who they're coming back to? For a little cash. But that's just the pessimist in me. But it's also, draining on resources that we're trying to provide our employees as well. So.
Okay. How about workers? Doug or Peter, is workers going to be giving a mask to members or offering a mask if they don't have one?
Well, Ron, as you know, Massachusetts, it's a requirement that people have masks. So,
Yep.
So we don't think there's going to be a need for that.
Sure. Yep. Good. Yeah, I've heard from other CEOs that are doing it. Some are not doing it. It's really a mix, but as Doug alluded to, Massachusetts, it's a requirement. So it seems people have them, so they'll be coming to the branch wearing one. Maybe occasionally somebody might need to ask for one, but not a huge need for it. Sure. Good. Another question is, what types of rewards, if any, are you offering staff that are coming to work every day? So maybe some kind of thank you, feel-good item of some kind, but any reward to staff that are coming to work every day.
So Achieva has decided to create care packages for their employees. So we're going to have little bottles of hand sanitizer in there, have a little fun, put some toilet paper in there, and all, and individually wrapped cookies and things of that nature. So, we're going to try to, we're going to be traveling to branches and going and putting them through the drive-throughs and whatnot. So we're going to have a little fun with it that way. But
Good.
I don't know if there's more specific on the reward side, Jen, you want to touch on?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. We've done different types of theme days, definitely a lot of drive-through visits, trying to stay out of there and setting the good example that even I'm not going into the branches in my role. But, we're a fun team. So definitely there's been no shortage of creativity around how to keep things mixed up. Definitely food is always on our short list of rewards and recognition. So the COVID-19 means something different to us.
I have heard that, some are doing like a restaurant gift card for a small business. So you give the employee a gift card for a small business, in turn use it for, support a local, small operation or small business in some way. And other maybe potential internal HR items as far as that feel good reward things for your employees. I've heard buying lunches. Other thoughts?
One of the things we've been doing, since we're all casual now and not dressing up or anything for work, is we've done fun Fridays where we have a theme. Like this Friday is wear your favorite hat. Next week we're going to do every day is a certain color, and then we're taking selfies and we're putting that on our intranet of all these things, and we're giving away gift cards to the best costume, best kind of thing. So we've had crazy hair day, we've had the the hat day, the color day, and then next week's Memorial Day, next Friday, so we're going to dress up red, white, and blue. Just those kind of things to motivate people. And we're encouraging our at-home staff to dress up too. So we had a slipper and PJ day, and that was kind of fun for the home crew because they were sending in their pictures as well. So it just helps build morale and keep the fun going through kind of uncertainty times.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
This is Jen. I don't know that this is necessarily rewards and recognition, but as we are so decentralized and working from home, you know, we're certainly trying to promote teamwork, and we have so many people in different roles and responsibilities that's kind of building a little bit of empathy. But our marketing team has just asked everybody to film like a 30, 60, 90-minute or second video, and then he just patches a few of them together each week, and we send that out to the whole team. So it's a little shout out from each person individually to their peers or the entire organization. And it really is, they're funny, they make you want to cry. I mean, it's the whole gamut of emotions come out in that type of scenario, and people feel recognized and closer together in a roundabout way.
Okay, good. Another question came in. Are you still requiring your staff to wear masks even though there's plexiglass between them and the members? I think I know the answer, but I'd rather have you. Yeah. Okay, Florida's a little bit different.
Yes,
You're shaking
We've
their
never
head.
heard that before.
So the answer is yes, I believe, for everybody but Florida, I believe, correct? Yeah, good. Yeah, another question is, with the summer months coming, what will you require for quarantine if employees vacation out of state? So again, maybe an employee leaves, goes to maybe Florida, California, pick a state, and they come back. Are there any thoughts or any plans for any kind of quarantine of any kind? Or is it too early to say?
So, Ron, again, the state of Massachusetts, it's a requirement of 2 weeks currently from the governor if you come in from out of the state. So that's kind of the way we're looking at it. The way it's phrased is out-of-state visitors. But I think it's best to look at it that way if you are from the state and you leave the state.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Peter. Annette, how about down in Delaware?
Well, that's currently what's in place here as well. Delaware is very small, and we are bordering Pennsylvania. I mean, I can literally walk to Pennsylvania from my house, and Maryland as well. So, and Jersey is right across the river. So it's a little tricky if somebody goes to a Jersey beach or goes to Philadelphia, which is 20 minutes away. So,
Okay.
vacationing to California is one thing. So I think we're just playing that by ear and being reasonable about it at this point.
Good. So a separate question, again, a lot of questions coming in, which is very positive. This is more for the Massachusetts folks on the panel right now. Are you opening up your lobbies on May 18th? And I'll let you answer that.
Oh, we are not. We are aiming for May 20th. And again, for part of that is because of Governor Baker really hasn't laid out his full plan yet. And so we're giving ourselves a little bit of buffer on that. Also, we don't necessarily want to open up full bore on a Monday, the same day it happens, because we're a little concerned about kind of being overwhelmed. So we thought Wednesday probably would be a safe option. But yeah, it really kind of depends on, the May 20th date really depends on what comes out on Monday with his guidance.
Okay. And I think Mike Workers mentioned that earlier, that it's going to be a gradual phase in, I believe.
Yeah, so we'll expand. It's stunning, actually, the amount of things that members can do digitally through the drive-through or by the phone. We've been strongly encouraging it, and members have been very receptive. In fact, they've sought it 9 times out of 10. There are still a few reasons you do need to come into the branch. We plan to switch to online appointments very shortly and expand the amount of things you can book an appointment for as we see the numbers come down. One of the hard things, Ron, for all of us is, even within Massachusetts, the virus is treating every community differently with ebbs and flows. So you're trying to ride that wave again. You could find yourself without a branch network very quickly in a particular area if you move too fast. And also you could lose your staff. I mean, there's been instances where healthcare professionals have gone in for appointments. And quite honestly, afterwards, staff become quite nervous of that. So I think a slow, gradual, but we make sure we screen appropriately in a non-accusatory fashion. Members are actually very receptive to it. And they don't particularly want to come back yet either. It's the other point. Some prefer to do their business in their car outside. So I'm very pleased. And I think, we'll slowly expand as we see the numbers get better.
Yeah, that seems to be the common theme that from I talk to peers. So a question off of an earlier question. This is an interesting one. Will the panelists pay employees when they choose to travel and have to self-quarantine for 14 days?
No.
Jennifer shaking her head no.
Part of that might play into how well the work from home model is in place. Like, for example, our 210 or so employees are all working from home right now from the corporate office. So assuming they can still handle that same capacity of work from their home office, then yeah, I think it would play into it, right?
Okay. So a question came up from a number of CEOs and folks before even today's webinar. It's about perhaps an employee that's a single mom or dad that has young children, that the school is closed and don't have access to daycare, at least in our state through June 30th, I believe. And an employee might have a difficult challenge going back to work if they need to. But I'd be curious to hear how you're handling, the daycare side of things of an employee not being able to go back to work physically because of a young child in some cases. Does that come across?
So Ron, this is Peter, and I speak from experience because I am a single parent. It is a big challenge. Your family is often your first concern. Being a larger credit union, we do have the ability to send people in rotations. And what we're experiencing is a lot of two-parent families do have somebody else out of work or working from home, and that's worked quite well. But it is a big concern. We're watching it very closely as the economy reopens and people go back to work. The governor here has not set an open date for childcare facilities, and it is very much a big topic. I don't think we have the exact answer yet, other than to say we'll continue rotations to try and make it work for folks. And again, a gradual reopen allows people to accommodate and catch up with their family circumstances.
Peter, thank you.
And FFFCRA kind of helps with that as well. We have an employee that is going to have an issue because her husband just went back to work as well, and she doesn't have childcare, and she has a toddler. So she's going to just basically be working the days that she is able to have her stepson kind of step in and fill in while he's trying to do his schoolwork, and come in and to kind of cover some hours. And then those other days, she's going to get the relief pay. So we just got to do what we can do to help compensate those hours that she's missing.
And just to add to that, Ron, I didn't perhaps fill out it more. We do, as Doug has pointed out, most of our people are working from home, and much like Jennifer said earlier, our contact center has just seen tsunamis of call-ins as members change preference. So we have been fortunate enough that when folks do have to work from home, that they can still do valuable work. And I honestly believe most employees want to add value. They don't particularly want to sit home and do nothing. And they're very happy to be doing something during this time. So that's worked really, really well for us, that push towards folks working from home. It has meant that we've had to invest in laptops, some serious money. But I think that agility keeps us operating at a high level and prevents us until there's a vaccine or herd immunity. This is going to be our norm for some time. So whether you're big or small, I think that investment in what seems, laptops and old technology at this point is probably one of the most valuable things you can do.
And to dovetail on that, we've done very similarly at Achieva. We've pulled all of our training room equipment and deployed that. And as we look to reopen and start rehiring somewhere down the line, we'll need a slimmed down version of technology, because even when we are able to train again, it'll be with social distancing in mind. So that was another creative way of getting your team's hands on some technology.
So the question is more probably on the operational side, and again, I have various conversations with your peers, and some have said that the initial when the outbreak happened, the pandemic, credit unions, through their nature, stepped up for skip-a-pays and hardship loans and waiving fees, and I get the sense that some credit unions might be kind of sunsetting some of those areas, but you can't skip a payment forever. I'm trying to be polite here, but what are your any thoughts about over the next few months as far as those, I'll call it member relief or assistance type programs, what you're planning to do or continue to do? I think the members would appreciate hearing that context.
I know for us, for a small credit union, and as I said, we're not having a real issue with people in need, fortunately. But we are offering 2 months of skip-a-pay with no fee, our normal program, just no fee, and we've kind of relaxed the time restrictions so they can kind of call if they're in a situation and say, I need to skip the payment. We have them fill out a form, but just to have, for record keeping purposes, to have records of the COVID-19 skips, and we're allowing that 2 months, and then beyond that they're going to have to prove all have a little bit more stringent of a qualification for a hardship. We're not asking any questions for the 2 months, and that's what we've put in place so far.
Okay, thank you, Annette.
We will go ahead.
I'm sorry. Rod, as you know, in Massachusetts, we were a little behind the 8 ball and be able to even calling our members that were delinquent for a little while. And so we had to basically have a one-size-fit-all approach to allow members to skip a payment and stuff like that. But our hope is as things go along, we'll be able to have those one-on-one conversations with our members to say, okay, what is your situation? And maybe a skip a pay is the right thing for that member. If that's the case, do that. But in some cases, it may not be, and then offer them other alternatives. So
Okay.
we plan to continue to have these generous opportunities for members, but we think now we'll be able to do it more on a one-on-one basis, which we think will be better.
Thank you, Doug. Michelle, I think you had some comments too, I believe.
He took them, so that was good.
Excellent. Well, listen, I'm looking at on my screen, I see Walter's 1:32 now in the afternoon. So, that's what we committed to, and I'm sensitive to our panelists' time and also our membership that's working incredibly hard. So, a full couple hours today of content and dialogue and networking. Please continue to reach out to each other. Please continue to reach out to the association for any kind of assistance. A big thank you to Doug, Annette, Jen, John, Peter, Michelle, Jason, and all of our panelists for joining us today. To our members, again, I want to always end with thank you for what you're doing to serve your members, and we hope that you, your families, and credit union staff and board members are all safe and healthy and well. And I will end it on that.